Have you ever walked into a room, said absolutely nothing wrong, and somehow felt like people didn't trust you? You shook their hand, you smiled, you answered their questions. You were polite, and yet something felt off. Here's the uncomfortable truth. People don't only listen to your words. They are constantly reading what your body is saying underneath those words. You can say, "I'm confident," while your body says, "I'm nervous." You can say, "I respect you," while your eyes keep looking at your phone. You can say, "I'm listening," while your body is already preparing your next response. And the crazy part, most people don't consciously notice these signals. They simply feel them. That's why someone can meet you for 30 seconds and think, "I don't know why, but I don't completely trust this person." Today, I want to show you some of the most common body language mistakes that quietly damage trust, and more importantly, what to do instead. Because this isn't about becoming some perfectly polished robot who walks around thinking about where every finger should be. It's about making your body and your words tell the same story. Let's start with one of the biggest mistakes. You break eye contact at exactly the wrong moment. Now, before you misunderstand me, I'm not telling you to stare into someone's soul for 5 straight minutes. That's not confidence. That's terrifying. Good eye contact isn't about staring, it's about connection. Think about the difference between talking to someone who looks at you while you're speaking and someone who keeps looking around the room. The second person might actually be listening. But what do you feel? You feel like they're somewhere else. And this is where eye contact becomes interesting. A lot of nervous people make the same mistake. They look at someone while speaking, but the moment they finish their sentence, they immediately look down. Why? Because the sentence is finished and their brain is thinking, "Okay, escape!" But that tiny movement can communicate uncertainty. Instead, try something incredibly simple. When you finish an important sentence, don't immediately look away. Pause. Keep your eyes connected for just one extra beat. Then relax your gaze naturally. That tiny pause changes the emotional meaning of what you just said. Instead of communicating, "I hope that was okay," your body communicates, "I believe what I just said." And there's another side to this. When someone else is speaking, let your eyes stay with them. Not intensely, not mechanically, just enough to communicate, "I'm here." Because one of the greatest gifts you can give someone in a conversation isn't advice, it's attention. And that brings us to the second mistake. You're constantly moving. Maybe you tap your fingers. Maybe your leg bounces underneath the table. Maybe you play with your watch. Maybe you touch your face. Maybe you're always adjusting your clothes. You might not even realize you're doing it. I remember noticing this in conversations where I felt slightly uncomfortable. I would think I was standing normally, but my hands were doing their own little performance. One hand touched the other. Then I adjusted my sleeve. Then I moved my phone. Then I shifted my weight. Nothing dramatic. But imagine watching that person from the outside. What does all that movement communicate? Sometimes it says, "I want to leave." Sometimes it says, "I'm nervous." And sometimes it simply makes you look less grounded. Here's the principle I want you to remember. Stillness creates space for your message to land. Think about a professional speaker. They don't need to move every second. In fact, some of the most powerful moments happen when the speaker becomes completely still. Why? Because your brain notices contrast. Constant movement becomes background noise. Stillness creates emphasis. So the next time you're in an important conversation, don't try to control every movement. Just remove one unnecessary movement. Stop tapping your fingers. Put your phone away. Let your hands rest naturally. Take a breath. Feel your feet on the ground. You don't need to perform confidence. You need to become comfortable enough that your body doesn't have to escape the moment. And that leads to another mistake that almost nobody talks about. Your body is pointing somewhere else. Imagine you're talking to someone at a party. Your face is toward them. You're smiling. You're saying, "Yeah, absolutely." But your feet are pointing toward the door. What does that person see? Maybe nothing consciously, but their brain can register it as, "This person wants to leave." Your body has a direction, and direction communicates intention. If you're speaking to someone, try turning your torso toward them. Let your feet generally face them. Keep your shoulders relaxed. You don't need to square yourself up like you're about to enter a boxing match. Just make your body say, "I'm with you." This becomes especially important in professional situations. Imagine you're talking to your manager. They're explaining something important. You're nodding, but your body is already halfway turned toward your computer. Your words say, "I'm listening." Ooh, your body says, "Can we finish this?" Which message do you think they remember? That's the thing about body language. People don't always remember what you said. They remember how they felt around you. And there's a mistake that can make this even worse. You smile at the wrong time. Now, smiling is powerful. But nervous smiling is different from genuine warmth. Have you ever been asked a serious question and smiled because you didn't know what else to do? Someone says, "Me need to talk about what happened," and you go, "Yeah, no!" Your brain is trying to reduce tension, but your face may be sending the opposite message. The other person might think you're not taking them seriously. This is why emotional alignment matters. Your expression should match the emotional weight of the conversation. If someone tells you something painful, you don't need to manufacture a giant sympathetic face. You simply need to let your expression soften. If someone shares exciting news, Allow yourself to smile. If you're discussing something serious, let yourself look serious. In other words, stop trying to look pleasant all the time. Aim to look present. There's a huge difference. And now we get to one of the most damaging mistakes of all. You nod too much.
Yes.
Nodding is good. But excessive nodding can become a nervous habit. Someone speaks, you nod. They continue, you nod again. They say something else. You nod like you're trying to win a head nodding championship. And eventually it stops communicating. I'm listening. It starts communicating, please like me. That's an important distinction because trust doesn't come from desperately trying to show people that you approve of them. Trust comes from being genuinely engaged with them. Instead of nodding automatically, respond to meaning. If something surprises you, let your expression show surprise. If something makes sense, nod once. If you disagree, you don't have to freeze your face and pretend everything is wonderful. You can simply listen because confident communication isn't constant agreement. It's emotional honesty. And this brings us to something deeper. Your body language often reveals what you're trying to hide. That's why the goal isn't to memorize 20 tricks. The goal is to become more internally grounded. Because imagine you're walking into a job interview thinking, where should my hands go? Am I smiling enough? Is my eye contact correct? Are my feet pointing the right way? Now you've created another problem. You're performing. And when you're performing, you're no longer connecting. So here's a better question. Instead of asking, how do I look confident? Ask, how can I make this person feel comfortable talking to me? That one question changes everything. Suddenly, eye contact isn't a technique, it's attention. Stillness isn't a technique, it's presence. And open posture isn't a technique, it's availability. And listening isn't something you're pretending to do. You're actually doing it. Let's say you walk into a room tomorrow and meet someone new. Before you say anything, take one slow breath. Relax your shoulders, put your phone away, turn your body toward them. Look at them when they speak, and don't rush to fill every silence. You might be surprised by what happens, because confident people don't always look powerful. Sometimes they simply look comfortable. Comfortable with silence, comfortable with eye contact, comfortable with not having the perfect answer. Comfortable being themselves. And that's where real trust starts. Think about someone you trust deeply. Do you trust them because they have perfect posture? Probably not. You trust them because their words and actions match. When they say they're listening, they listen. When they say they're happy for you, you can feel it. When they disagree, they don't suddenly become cold or defensive. There's congruence. Everything lines up. And that's the real secret behind powerful body language. Congruence. Your face, voice, posture, gestures, and words are all telling the same story. If they are, people relax around you. If they're not, people feel uncertainty. And uncertainty is where trust starts to disappear. So I want you to try something today. Have one conversation where you focus on nothing except presence. No phone. No rehearsing your next sentence. No worrying about whether you look confident. Just be there. Look at the person, listen to what they're actually saying. Let your face respond naturally. Keep your body relaxed and notice how different the conversation feels. Because here's what nobody tells you about communication. The goal isn't to make people think you're impressive. The goal is to make people feel safe enough to be real with you. That's why the most trustworthy person in the room isn't necessarily the loudest. It isn't necessarily the most charismatic. It isn't the person with the strongest handshake or the perfect posture. Sometimes it's the person who makes you feel like you don't have to perform. And maybe you've spent years trying to look confident. Maybe you've practiced what to say. You've worried about your voice. You've worried about your appearance. You've tried to become more interesting. But perhaps the next level isn't adding another performance. Perhaps it's removing the things that communicate fear when you don't mean to communicate fear. Stop fidgeting. Stop forcing smiles. Stop looking away when your sentence ends. Stop nodding just to be liked. Stop talking while your body is already trying to leave. And start becoming more present. Because the strongest body language isn't the body language that says, look at me. It's the body language that says, I'm here with you. And people can feel the difference. So the next time you walk into a conversation, remember this, your body is always speaking. The question is not whether you're communicating. You are. The question is, what is your body saying? Is it saying, I'm nervous, I'm distracted, please approve of me? Or is it quietly saying, I'm comfortable, I'm listening, I'm present, you can trust me? You don't need to become a different person. You just need to make sure the person you are on the inside is the same person people experience on the outside. Because when your words say one thing and your body says another, people feel the conflict. But when your words, voice, and body all tell the same story, something powerful happens. People stop trying to figure you out. They start listening to you. And more importantly, they start feeling safe around you. That's the kind of communication worth mastering.